and we'll be talking about each of those later on in the presentation. Okay, if you have any questions throughout the workshop, feel free to place them in the chat. I'll answer as many as I can afterwards, or I can follow up via email. So, feel free to send me a private message, or you can reach out to me on Instagram as well if you have a question, and I'll give you my contact details at the end. All right, so just a little bit about me before we dive in. 4 years ago, I was living in Chicago. I was working in advertising there, and the agency that I worked for overworked, underpaid, and underappreciated all of its young staff. I burned out really quickly, and I dreamed of taking a year-long sabbatical to travel the world. But even beyond that, I just really desperately wanted to change careers, but I had no idea what I would pursue other than advertising or how I would transition into something different. In the spring of 2017, I moved back to my home state of Colorado, and there I began working for a boutique branding agency where I actually, for the first time, discovered the concept of work-life balance. This was a game changer for me. I began prioritizing my physical, mental, and spiritual health. And within a year, I was working as a freelancer and managing my own schedule. So I had a lot of flexibility. In December 2018, I joined Remote Year and started traveling full-time. For those who aren't familiar, Remote Year is a group that puts together year-long travel itineraries for working professionals. So you come with your own remote job and you travel with a group of people for the entire year. So I was traveling with a group of 35 strangers. We were in a different country every month. And I'd found a way to have it all, right? I was living my dream of travel while also earning a living. But what I didn't realize is that health and well-being can be really hard to juggle when you're constantly moving. And so my mental health would fluctuate as I was exposed to new cultures and environments. Lack of sleep or sunshine could throw me off balance entirely. I didn't know how to maintain my physical health without a regular fitness routine, and while trying to eat all these new delicious foods in all the places that we visited. So over the course of the past 2 years, all areas of my life have come into greater balance, and I've learned to juggle work and exploration, social time and me time, and health and indulgence. A year ago, as the world was falling apart, I found myself deeply depressed and searching for greater purpose and meaning. And it was in that moment that I finally found the courage to pursue a major career change. And I began studying to become a life coach. So today I work with clients from around the world, to help them find greater joy and well-being and build a life that they truly love. So today I'll share with you what I've learned through my own experiences and in the work that I do with my clients. All right, let's dive right in. So everyone talks about balance, but why is balance so important? Well, first of all, today's world moves at a frantic pace, right? Many people feel the need to be connected and available 24/7. We all have these devices. We take them everywhere with us. They're never off. And, thank goodness for us, those of us who choose to work and travel, we can work from almost anywhere, and we often do, whether we're on the clock or not, right? So it can be hard to really draw those lines between our personal and professional life. And this increases anxiety and stress because we are just blurring the boundaries of all aspects of our life. Now, flexibility isn't necessarily freedom. Some of you, especially those of you who are self-employed, or if you work for an employer who gives you unlimited days off, you might know this firsthand, but many people with flexible schedules actually work more and take fewer days off, or they end up working on their days off, right? And the perks of flexibility are lost on those who don't know how to organize their lives. So if you have the flexibility to kind of choose your work hours and when you meet with people and when you're traveling or whatever, that's great. Except if you don't know what to do with that time or how to make sure that you're prioritizing all of your needs, you're going to be in this place of unbalance, right? So routines and prioritization can really help with this. All right, next, let's talk about FOMO, this fear of missing out that terrifies all of us, right? How many people here struggle with FOMO? Yeah, FOMO is real and it can run your life. When you try to do everything, you overcommit, you don't take time to rest, you burn out, right? You just become overwhelmed. So today we're going to talk about how to prioritize your engagements and your time and make sure that you're also taking time for yourself to really rest and recharge and not just trying to do everything and be there for everyone, okay? So we're looking to achieve JOMO, the joy of missing out. All right, and then finally, I'm a huge advocate of routines. I believe that routines and habits can provide stability and sanity. So I've gone from having absolutely no routine at all to having too much structure and routine in my life and yo-yoing back and forth between the two to finally realize, you need some sort of structure, even if it's just a few things that you do every single day. So lack of routine can impact your physical and mental health, but it's important to make time for the things that are important and the things that you love, and hopefully figure out how to make these things one and the same. All right, so after today's workshop, you should walk away with practices to become even more successful than you already are at your job. We'll talk a lot about how to set boundaries and focus on what's best for you. I'll give you lots of ideas and resources for how to become healthier in all areas of your life, along with some travel hacks. And you'll create your own plan for how to create greater balance every day. All right, here's today's agenda for those who like to kind of see it laid out. And let's go into an activity, give you each a chance to do something here, okay? So I'll give you 2 minutes to respond to the questions on screen. And then if you want to write your responses, if anyone's brave enough to share in the chat, I'd love to, share 1 or 2 people's answers to these questions. So the first one is, where are you lacking balance in your life? And second is, what do you do to promote greater balance in your life? Okay. Does anyone want to share their responses? No? Okay. All right. Well, then hopefully you have these for yourself and you can use this as a way of really focusing your attention for the rest of the workshop. Okay. So you know where you're really excelling today. And as we go through, hopefully you can think of ways in which you can really improve, create greater balance. All right. So let's dive into talking about work. And the first thing I want to talk about is setting boundaries. Okay, so there's a lot of talk about boundaries these days. I think a lot of us are people pleasers at heart. We're taught growing up that we should put others before ourselves, that we should make other people happy, that we have to in order to have people like us. If you're a mother or a parent, you're used to putting other people before yourself. But the reality is that you can't care for others if you're not caring for yourself first. And this is why it's so important to set boundaries. So, believe it or not, boundaries allow you to be a better employee, a better friend, and a better family member. Because when you're overwhelmed, stressed, exhausted, burnt out, you're not able to give anything your best, right? When you care for yourself first, you're better able to be present with and there for others. So, in order to set boundaries, you have to set parameters for how and when people can reach you. Okay. So, in this world where we're never without our phones, it's easy for people to assume that we're always available, but we don't have to be. Okay. So, when it comes to your job, setting boundaries with your clients, your employer, your employees is crucial. In your personal life, setting expectations with your friends and your family when they can reach you is important. I start every day with 2 hours without my phone. I set the downtime settings on my phone to where I don't receive any notifications. None of my messaging apps work. I don't get any news for the first 2 hours. And that allows me to really start my day off right. Okay. So, in doing that, I've taken the time for me at the very start of the day. And that means that I can give more of myself to others as I need to throughout the day. It's really crucial to create defined lines between your personal and professional life as well. So, when I left to travel with Remote Year, I was traveling with a woman that I worked with. She was the owner of an agency that was one of my client agencies. And her job didn't require her to work so much with clients. So when we were in Europe and Asia, she worked during the day. But because I was working with clients in North America, I was working evenings. And so she'd be working away and she'd be sending me texts and emails with different requests and questions. And throughout the day, my heart rate would get up. I'd get really anxious because I kept feeling like, oh my God, I got to get to my computer. I got to answer her. I got to help her with this. And finally, I took a step back and I thought about it and I was like, wait a second, no, I'm working my 8 hours. They're starting at 7 p.m., they're starting at midnight, but there's no reason why I should have to be online and available all the time. This is my time to relax, to explore a new place. So I got into a habit of any time that we would go to a new country or be in a new time zone, I just let her know in this time zone, these are the hours that I'm working. So if you contact me about anything related to work outside of those hours, I may not get to it right away. Of course, she's a reasonable person. She understood. My anxiety levels decreased and things worked much better from there. Okay, so you can practice setting boundaries in your professional and your personal life. One way to do this is before you agree to anything, ask yourself 3 things. Ask, does this fill my cup? Okay, is this something that I enjoy or that I want to do? Does this need to be addressed by me? Or is there someone else who's perhaps better suited to handle this? And does this need to be addressed right now? It could be that it's something that you can work on, but if you're stressed for time, maybe it can wait a while. All right, so it's important to learn how and when to say no. All right, we've spent plenty of time talking about boundaries. Let's talk about commitments and expectations, which are related but somewhat different. All right, so first and foremost, I would say, don't be afraid to ask for what you need, right? We're all human beings. We all have unique needs, and our needs change over time. So over the course of a professional relationship, a romantic relationship, a friendship, whatever it may be, your needs will change. And it's your responsibility to make sure that you're asking for what you need. Now, at any given time, you also need to clearly communicate your commitments to those in your life, right? At times, you may be working extra hours. And so you need to communicate to your roommate, your significant other, your friends, your family that you're not as available. You really have to have your head down and work. Or it might be that you need to be there for a friend or a family member who's going through a tough time, who's having a medical emergency, whatever it may be. And if you communicate that to your coworkers, your employees, your clients, they can help to take some of that burden off of your plate. So I think it's also important to touch on the fact that, you can choose to take on responsibilities outside of your commitments. Certainly not saying that, you should stay in your lane and not do a favor for a friend or, help your boss with an extra task outside of your job description. But before you do so, just be sure to ask yourself, does this detract from my well-being in any way? And if it does, you might want to reconsider. All right, let's do another activity. Go ahead and get out your paper and pen and write down your responses to the following questions. Okay, the first question is, what do you require in order to do your job well? So this could be any number of things. Maybe it's that you need 8 hours of sleep. Maybe you need great clients. Maybe you need to take lots of breaks throughout the day. Better balance, more of a personal life on the weekends. Write whatever comes to mind. And then the next question is, what do you need to be happy and fulfilled? Okay, so this can be in your professional life, your personal life, whatever. For me, I need to travel. I need to see the world. I need to have a sense of adventure, right? I also need to be on top of my physical health. Definitely need to be on top of my mental health. Also need to be making money, making an income, a steady income. And then ask yourself, do these needs ever come into conflict? And if so, when? And what reasonable accommodations or compromises can be made to resolve these conflicts? Okay, so this could come from someone else. It could come from you. Get creative. But try to think of a way that, you could overcome this conflict. All right, I will give you all 3 minutes to answer these questions. Okay. So hopefully everyone could come up with a few things here. One example of this, that's happened in my life is being in a place or a point in my career where I really needed to dedicate at least 60 hours a week to my job, in order to hit my goals, keep things moving, satisfy clients' needs. But at that time, I was traveling, seeing the world, and I felt like I wasn't actually getting to experience the place that I was in. I could have been anywhere in the world, right? So my compromise in this case was to take one weekend every other week where I didn't touch any work. Okay. So there were a lot of weekends where I was having to work a little bit, work some hours Saturday and Sunday, but I would promise myself that every other weekend I wouldn't touch my work at all. And that allowed me to really experience a place, but also get the work that I needed to do done. All right. Now let's talk about communication. So obviously, communication is a huge factor in all of our relationships, right? It's so important in building relationships and happiness in your life. Now, in order to earn someone's trust, it's very important to communicate proactively. Don't ever leave others guessing or uncertain. So when it comes to your professional life, things that you might want to communicate with clients, employees, employers are, your time off and your availability, when and how others can reach you, and the prioritization and status of your tasks, right? So this email here on the screen is an example of that. When someone's waiting on something from you, they might ping you a million times asking for it. But if you're very proactive in your communication, maybe you have regular check-ins with them, you won't have someone constantly nagging you for something. This is an example of an email that you might send before you leave for a weekend. Say you're going to go disappear into the desert, you're going to have spotty service. You don't want to find yourself on the top of a sand dune and all of a sudden you've somehow reached a cell tower and you've got all these messages flooding you, asking, where are you? What's happening? What's the status of this? Right? So in really staying organized and doing a bit of the legwork ahead of time, you can manage other people's expectations. And really, honestly, this calms anxiety on their end and on yours, right? Because you're just being proactive and over communicating. Okay, now a few of my travel hacks for business and work balance. I'll send these all out afterwards, so you'll all have them. But here are a few things that help me to really balance my work life. One is to research co-working spaces and cafes with reliable Wi-Fi everywhere that I go. I use the OOTD app for this sometimes. It filters on all sorts of criteria. I find that it can be really helpful to get out of my house, out of my apartment, just go down the street, have somewhere that I can work reliably. You can also look to stay in places where you have a dedicated workspace. So Selena is great for this, right? You know that if you stay in a Selena hostel, you're going to have a built-in co-working space. You can see right now, I'm in my Airbnb. I'm at a desk. This is like a dedicated desk in the bedroom. It's great. You can test Wi-Fi speeds as you travel with speedtest or fast.com. This is really important when you're going anywhere, especially if you don't know if the Wi-Fi is reliable. Make sure to ask the owner of the place that you're staying at to send you a screenshot of the Wi-Fi speed as well. I also use World Time Buddy when I travel to schedule meetings across various time zones. So I was trying to schedule a meeting with some of my girlfriends the other day. One of us is in Bali, a few are in Mexico, I'm here in Georgia. And I was able to line up the 3 locations in World Time Buddy and find a time that would work for all of us. And then, just make sure that you have all of your files stored on the cloud rather than on your desktop. I had my laptop get fried in Colombia 2 years ago, and it took 2 months before I could get it fixed. But because I didn't save anything on my laptop, I was able to work from, a friend's Chromebook and still do everything. I didn't lose any of my files. All right, so we've talked a lot about work. Let's switch to talking about health and lifestyle. All right. So we all know a lot about how to maintain our physical health, right? I won't go into too much detail here, but obviously, how we eat, the amount of water we consume, other things that we consume, physical activity, sleep, stress. We carry stress in our body, not just in our neck and shoulders, but in every single organ of our body. And the toxins that we're exposed to and pollution or whatever, these things all affect our physical health. So my travel hacks for maintaining your physical health are here. The first one starts before you even get to a place. So in order to reduce my amount of jet lag when I arrive in a new place, basically as soon as I board the flight, I look at the time in the place that I'm going, and then I make sure to be asleep during those hours when I want to be asleep in this new place, right? So if I know that I'm going to be going to sleep at 11 p.m. every night, then I look at my phone, figure out, at what point in the flight will it be 11 p.m. in Tbilisi, for instance, and then, say 2 hours into my flight or whatever, I'll try to fall asleep in order to just get acclimated ahead of time. When you go to a new place, you can, of course, find a local gym or find meetup groups to join, right, where you can do weekend hikes or, find a nearby basketball court where you can play basketball. These are all options, but they tend to be unreliable from place to place, right? And it's so important to have some sort of physical, plan for physical activity when you're changing locations all the time. So one option, maybe not always the most exciting option, is to train at home with online workouts. So I do workouts with the trainer. They're group workouts. They're live 5 days a week, and I can do them from anywhere in the world. And this is great because if I'm working, literally all I have to do is, set up Zoom, get out my yoga mat, and I can get in a good 30-minute workout right there. So I found that this is a great option for me. Another thing that works really well in some parts of the world is to rent a bicycle to get around town. So if you're in a bike-friendly city and you can find an inexpensive rental, it's a great way to get in your exercise and explore a new place. Okay. I also make sure that my first stop in any new city is a trip to the grocery store. I literally have a list of things that I stock up on every place that I go so that I have, my healthy breakfast, healthy snacks, and a few other staples so that I can cook from home and I'm not always eating out. Because when you eat out all the time, you can't control what you're putting in your body. But, with that in mind, being in a new place, you want to explore, you want to indulge, right? So take a, take a local cooking class. A lot of times these include a market tour, so that you can see where the local market is. You can become familiar with these local ingredients. And you can even learn how to cook some of this stuff for yourself at home. All right, you can feel free to take a screenshot or a picture of this screen. I won't stay on it long, but these are my recommendations for Instagram accounts and apps for physical health. All right, so when we talk about mental health, we talk about brain stimulation. This includes learning, like learning a new language, brain exercises, puzzles, processing emotions and managing stress, right? So we do this through meditation, breath work, practicing art, writing, going to therapy, seeing a coach. Sleep, again, sleep is so important. to our mental and physical health, and environment. I struggle with seasonal depression if I don't get enough sunlight. Being in nature is also really important for me. At least once a week, I've got to get out and kind of ground myself in a natural environment. So my travel hacks for mental health are to journal, not only about your experiences. It's not just about today I went here, saw this, did this, ate that, but you can journal about how you feel as well. List the activities you want to do in each place that you visit, right? This is FOMO that we're talking about here. You get to a new place and there's 50 things that you hear about that you want to see and do, right? And it's overwhelming. You're like, how am I going to fit this all in? Well, write them all down and then categorize them. Write down the things that you really, really feel you must do before you leave. And then make a list of things that you'd like to do, but they're like not in your top. And then a list of things that are like, maybe I'll save this for the next time I come back, right? So in prioritizing things in this way, you'll actually have time to get work done. You won't be out doing and seeing things all the time and then stressing about the fact that, you're burning the candle at both ends. And, you get rid of that FOMO. Because if you hit all the things in your must-do list, all of a sudden you don't care as much about those other two columns. All right. I also really try to leave the house at least once a day so that I feel like I'm out, I'm experiencing the place that I'm in, even if it's just to go to the workspace or go meet someone for lunch. But I also make sure to take time to recharge as well, right? So if you're always out trying to do and see everything, you're going to be drained. You're going to be exhausted and overwhelmed, and you're not going to be showing up the way that you should be in any area of your life. I also keep letters and notes from loved ones that boost my spirits when I'm feeling down. And I really try to make time each week to catch up with friends and family from around the world. So even if it's just one call a week to someone that I love, this helps me feel connected, keeps me from getting lonely. All right, and here are my mental health app recommendations. Okay, so finally, let's talk about spiritual health. Some people may say, I'm not that spiritual. I don't know if this applies to me. And I guess what I would say is, we all have needs for a feeling of spiritual connection of some sort, even if it's just a knowing that we're part of something bigger than ourselves, that we're connected to those around us. Okay, so fulfilling your spiritual health may look different from how you've heard it traditionally discussed, right? It could include honoring your culture and traditions. So whether this is celebrating holidays, going to church. My partner is Israeli and Jewish, and as we travel around the world, he, whether we have a Jewish community in a place or not, it's really important to him to celebrate his holidays. So we'll, invite the people that we've met to come and join us in our home for, Hanukkah or Passover or whatever. And he takes that time to explain a bit about his culture with them. And, for them, it's a beautiful cultural experience. They get to learn something new. And for him, it makes him feel like he's honoring his traditions, and it brings him closer to his roots. Seek out experiences that elevate your soul. For me, this is being in nature, being on top of a mountain, above the clouds, just looking out at the world around me, the vast world. I also get this, in sitting around and singing with people. Someone's got a guitar, all just kind of raising our voices in song. This is just, it just fills you. It fills you deep into your heart. So figure out what those experiences are for you and seek those out in the different places that you find yourself. Connection with others is so important to who we are as humans. We're social creatures. And so we can connect with others through ceremonies, joining spiritual or religious groups in different places, getting a group of people together to have conscious conversations where you just talk about deep and meaningful subjects, often things that we're afraid to discuss, because we feel so divided in this time. So finding people who you can come together with and just share a sense of, community and appreciation for life is a really beautiful way to fulfill your spiritual health. And also, volunteering and working in service of others. So when you give of yourself without expectation of anything else in return, you get this amazing sense of connection and fulfillment that you can't really get from anything else. Okay, so my travel hacks for spiritual health are to find local spiritual groups to join and or celebrate holidays with. Explore the spiritual traditions of the place you're visiting, right? That can be really interesting to kind of figure out, what do people believe here? How do they, celebrate? How do they come together? What does that look like? Prioritize activities and experiences that elevate your soul. Like I said, going on hikes, being in nature, finding people to sing with, whatever it is for you, seeing local art, perhaps, being with animals. Find those activities and really emphasize those in your travels. Find opportunities to volunteer and give back in the places that you visit. When I was living in Playa del Carmen for a few months, I was volunteering at the dog shelter there, walking the dogs a few times a week. And if you have the luxury of not having to work for a period of time, whether it's a few weeks or a few months, sign up for Workaway or some sort of like volunteer program where you can go and, stay with someone, immerse yourself in the local community, do some volunteer work, maybe for just room and board and experience and exchange. Okay. And these are my favorite apps for spiritual health. All right, so we have one more activity, and this one is my favorite. I think you'll see a lot of benefit in this. So go ahead and create a table like this one below. And under each column, come up with as many different activities, routines, practices as you can for each category. Now, the key to this is that these should be things that you actually enjoy. Okay, so if there's a workout that you do, but like you absolutely hate it, but you do it because you know it's good for you, don't put it on here. Okay, come up with something that you can substitute it with that you actually really enjoy. Maybe it's dancing. I don't know, make a goal to dance once a week or whatever. So anyway, you don't have to limit yourself to 4 things per column. Just come up with as many as you can. I will give you all 3 minutes for this. Okay, so hopefully everyone had time to write down at least a few things for each category. Now, after this workshop, and encourage each of you to take time today to sit down with your calendar and figure out, how can you balance your activities to promote health in each of these categories. So I sit down every Sunday or Monday, honestly, and I look at my calendar and I kind of make sure that I'm checking all of those boxes, right? So I try to fit in at least one of these things each day. Even better if you can get at least one thing in each category in each day. All right. So ask yourself, how can you work these activities into your social engagements? First of all, say you're trying to eat healthy and you want to meet a friend for lunch, choose a healthy restaurant, right? Say you're, I don't know, looking to embrace your spirituality, right? And you find out that there's a full moon ceremony happening wherever you are. Go join it and meet other like-minded people who you can come together with. If you're working on physical health, schedule a group hike. All right. And then also, what daily routines can you implement to check these boxes as well? So for me, those are my daily workouts that you see here on the calendar, meditation right afterwards, journal each night. I have a nightly gratitude practice. Some of these things are on my calendar. Others, I've just turned them into habits over time, so I don't need to plan them out in this way. But if you look at this calendar here as an example, you can see, there's a wide variety of things that really help to increase health in each of these areas. And the one thing that's not as obvious here, but it's one of the most important things, is to make sure that you schedule time for yourself. So don't fill your calendar too full. I tend to have a rule during the week that I don't plan more than 3 social engagements during the week. I'm an introvert, and so I know that I get overwhelmed and my battery just gets completely zapped and drained if I overschedule myself with social engagements. So I make sure that I have a few nights a week that are just mine, or that I'm not overdoing it, trying to be everywhere and see everyone. So make sure that you give yourself time for that as well. Whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, we all need time to recharge. Okay. Well, thank you all so much for joining me here today. As I mentioned at the beginning, I am a life and wellness coach. Not sure if coaching is something that you've ever considered before. Maybe you don't really know what you would need a coach for. My clients come to me for a wide variety of reasons, and some of them are here on this slide. Maybe you're feeling burnt out and this workshop was a good starting place, but you need more help beyond this. Maybe you're feeling deeply unhappy with your life, but you're not quite sure why, and you want someone to work with you to really dig into what that might be. Perhaps you feel like your life lacks purpose and meaning, and you want to find ways to make it more fulfilling. I can help you figure that out, whether it's a career shift or volunteering more or whatever it may be. Perhaps you know what you want to change in your life, but you need help getting there. I can help you with that process as well. And perhaps you're on the path to greater well-being and you're doing a lot of self-development, but you could use some more tools to help you along. Got a whole arsenal of things to help you kind of figure out, how do I continue down this path, just creating better well-being and balance in my life. So anyway, if any of that sounds interesting to you and you'd like to schedule a 20-minute exploration call, it's completely free. You can schedule it at the link here or, in the link on my Instagram page. Whether you're interested in coaching or not, please connect with me on Instagram. I'd love to hear from you, love to connect, love to know your story, know where you're at in the world. So please find me there. Thank you all so much. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. Well, if any questions do come up, you know where to find me. I believe I have everyone's email addresses. Selena Crew, if anybody wants to connect afterwards, or if you have any questions, you can find me on Instagram, or Fernanda, I believe you have my email, so you can feel free to send me anyone's information that way as well. But I will be emailing everyone after this with my travel hacks that I shared here. So look out for an email from me. Thank you all so much. Bye.